Welcome to Inside Politics. That was over an hour of Donald Trump giving a news conference, answering questions, and giving us some new information about what he intends to do, or at the very least is not ruling out when he takes office, including not ruling out a military invasion to conquer Greenland, the Panama Canal, and perhaps the annexation of the country of Canada. There is a lot more to discuss. We have a terrific panel here. Caitlin Collins, you are our chief White House correspondent, in addition to all of your other titles. What's that?
13 more days to go.
Yeah, okay. But you obviously have been covering Donald Trump for a very long time. Before I get to you, I do want to play David Sanger, our friend at the New York Times, his question about the Panama Canal and on Greenland, and Donald Trump's response before you respond.
No, I can't assure you on either of those two, but I can say this. We need them for economic security. The Panama Canal was built for our military. I'm not going to commit to that now. It might be that you'll have to do something. Look, the Panama Canal is vital to our country. It's being operated by China. And we gave the Panama Canal to Panama. We didn't give it to China. And they've abused it. They've abused that gift. It should have never been made, by the way. Giving the Panama Canal is why Jimmy Carter lost the election, in my opinion, more so maybe than the hostages. The hostages were a big deal.
Okay, so the question is, Caitlin, how much of this is Donald Trump trying to negotiate and posturing and warning them? And how much do you really think he means it, particularly given the fact that a big part of his consistent campaign message for 8 years has been, I'm going to get us out of wars?
Well, I mean, it was an extraordinary moment, one of the most extraordinary moments of that press conference, where he was refusing to rule out using military force to retake the Panama Canal, something that he himself brought up, I should note, in this press conference when a reporter later asked, why are you bringing this up? Obviously, it's a signature achievement of Jimmy Carter's. He's about to be lying in state here in Washington. Trump said he was asked about it, but Trump brought it up in his opening remarks. It's something that he's been quite fixated on behind the scenes, from what I've heard from sources in the past few weeks on this issue, complaining about Chinese influence. Obviously, this was a signature achievement of Jimmy Carter's. He believed it improved relations with Latin America for the United States. And still, it's one of his biggest accomplishments that people talk about. But Trump there saying that he would not rule out using military force to retake it is not something that should be treated as with bluster. I mean, Trump is coming into this White House and is intentionally staffing his administration with aides who will not block what he wants to do or what he ultimately seeks. There were many instances in his first term where he wanted to do something, but advisors either convinced him not to, or Republican lawmakers did. That is not going to be the same Washington that we are encountering in 13 days from now when Trump takes office. So I would treat everything he said there quite seriously. I mean, moments after he said he wanted to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying that she's going to advocate for that. But I do want to say, one of the biggest things that stood out to me from that press conference, from moments when Trump got out there before he even started taking questions, is the level of anger.
He's really agitated.
Well, we know why. He made it quite clear a few moments in. It's two things. It's his legal issues overall, but it's the sentencing that he is facing on Friday that so far is still, Judge Merchan has denied efforts to delay it. His attorneys are still working to do so. And two, it's this report by Jack Smith that we are told is imminent and is going to come out. Trump was informed during that Judge Cannon down in Florida has tried to temporarily block that. Well, it's not a settled matter. We'll see if it's successful. But his level of anger over that is unmistakable. He has not been this angry since he won the election.
And John, I wanted to intentionally start a little bit micro on Panama and on Greenland, particularly since his son is in Greenland as we speak. But I do want to sort of open it up a little and talk big picture about your takeaway from, as Caitlin just said.
It is remarkable, somebody who is 2 weeks from resuming the presidency of the United States, who, whether you voted for him or not, whether you like him or not, just engineered a remarkable historical political comeback, is so whiny and so full of grievances. Now, that is Donald Trump's trademark. That has been his trademark since he came down that escalator. He uses grievance to keep his people together, to keep his base together, and to keep his team loyal. But he came out clearly, his lawyers had access to the Jack Smith report at a private meeting here in Washington, D.C. They have briefed him on it. He is going to now try to use every legal power he can to prevent its release. You could see how angry he was about it. There's the sentencing on Friday. He was beating up on Joe Biden, who, yes, is using his powers on the way out to sign executive orders to do things that Donald Trump fundamentally disagrees with.
As Trump also did.
As Trump also did, welcome to American politics. But talking about how he's inheriting a mess. He's inheriting the strongest economy in the world. It has troubles, it has potholes, it has issues, but he's inheriting the strongest economy in the world. And the Biden team is working with him, as Donald Trump's own negotiator acknowledged, on the very difficult issues in the Middle East, about hostage releasing and about trying to finally bring about a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. His negotiator was very polite and respectful of the Biden administration. Trump was quite scornful and not factual.
Can I just say, I thought that was like a bookend to the interview Susie Wiles did, who was also very respectful when she talked to Axios about Jeff Zients, the current White House chief of staff. So you have Steve Witkoff on one end talking about working so well with the Biden team in tandem on an issue as fraught as trying to get these hostages out. You had Susie Wiles on the front end 2 days ago, yesterday, saying that the chief of staff, the current Biden chief of staff, is doing everything very kind, and yet in the middle of all that, you have Donald Trump trying to gin up this notion, to your point about grievance, saying that they're throwing everything at this to make this a very difficult transition.
Everybody's still out to get him. He just won an election, and then he questioned the election again, too. It was too big to rig, he said. He won the election. He won the popular vote. He should be celebrating. He should be coming into Washington. Yes, he has very narrow majorities in the House and the Senate. It's going to be difficult to get things done, but this should be someone who is upbeat and happy to come in, but he is still full of grievances because it is his organizing principle. But there were a lot of lies in there. That was a trailer. That was an hour-long trailer for the next 4 years, in that he tells a lot of lies. He hedges, he exaggerates and hypes a lot of things. But he also made a ton of news there. You're right about the idea that it's posturing, but the idea that he couldn't rule out using either economic leverage or military force to take Greenland and the Panama Canal. He says he's going to rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. Canada, our closest friend in the world, our neighbor to the north, a giant economic partner, is in the middle of a political crisis right now, and he just poured kerosene on the fire.
Well, that's why he did it.
Military action there.
Yeah, he did rule out.
Well, he did.
He did actually rule out military action.
But he said he would use economic leverage.
Right.
He did. Yeah. He said, I will use economic force because Canada, actually, let's listen to what he said.
Your neighbor's house is on fire, and you don't call the fire department, you pour kerosene on it.
Let's listen.
Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No, economic force, because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Why are we supporting a country, $200 billion plus a year? Our military is at their disposal, all of these other things. They should be a state. That's why I told Trudeau when he came down, I said, what would happen if we didn't do it? He said Canada would dissolve.
Now, if anybody has moved since Trump was elected to Canada, they're going to be looking down from the north to the south saying, okay, is this going to happen? But no, but in all seriousness, John, you said that he's pouring gasoline on a fire, excuse me, while Canada is having trouble. But the reality is that part of why Canada is having trouble and why Trudeau resigned yesterday is because of these threats. It's also because there's anti-incumbent fever globally and has been all year. The fact that they are in such turmoil, Trump believes that he has maximum leverage right now in Canada.
Yeah, and you hear this, he keeps talking about this $200 billion trade deficit, which he sees as a giveaway to Canada. And there's no doubt he sees this. In fact, he was asked about the election if he might be able to work better, and he said, well, that guy, the conservative may not even win, or, he didn't want to get in there because he did want to use this moment for maximum leverage. I will say just two other things that I think it's worth noting in the press conference. One, he continued, just because we're a day after January 6th, to say that pardons are coming, as he has said.
He said, I'm making major pardons.
Major pardons as it relates to January 6th, though not a clear blanket pardon for everyone involved. But clearly that is still on very much front of mind for him. And I do think you heard in the press conference him at times, he was asked about prices and his comments to Time magazine about sort of expectation setting, that getting prices down is tough. He understands. You see there, that he won this election on the economy and on immigration. He said that as much. And so it was interesting to hear him reassert what he said to Time, which is like, oh, prices are going to come down, but it is tough to get prices down. He wants to have that both ways.